Hey everyone! Is the American dream becoming a distant memory? Have you noticed it's harder to get ahead these days? You're not alone. The middle class in America is shrinking faster than ever before, and it's not your imagination. In this video, we're going to take a look at this ticking time bomb and the forces squeezing the middle class. We'll talk about why it's tougher to buy a house than your parents. Spoiler alert, it's not because they were all miracle workers, and what it all means for your future. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. We're about to expose some harsh realities you need to hear. Let's get real about the state of the American middle class. Several areas of everyday life, including vehicles, healthcare, education, utilities, and various other goods, have experienced significant and rapid price increases. In contrast, incomes have only risen by 65% over the past 50 years. Inflation exacerbates this problem, consuming an ever greater share of your monthly earnings. The classic American dream of achieving financial stability and accumulating wealth through homeownership is becoming increasingly out of reach for large amounts of the population, including those considered to be in the middle class. The current job market does not offer enough jobs with middle-range incomes to support the modern middle class, forcing many families to take on multiple jobs just to continue their current standard of living. Many people might not even realize they have already slipped out of the middle class due to the current job market's stark divide. This harsh market demands that people either invest in costly education for high-tier roles or accept lower-wage positions. Although, holding a degree no longer ensures a high salary, as entry-level jobs are more prevalent. An economic survey that was undertaken found that the majority of American workers experience a lack of job security, with hardly 40% in positions that provide a yearly salary of at least $440,000 on a regular schedule, which also includes benefits like health insurance and paid leave. Despite the middle class historically being a key driver of economic growth in the U.S., its income contribution has diminished in recent years when compared to the 1970s. Data from a think tank indicates that since the mid-70s, the middle class has shrunk by 11%, now making up less than half of the nation's population. Have you ever wondered who exactly counts as middle class? Economists are scratching their heads too, because defining it gets pretty messy. The government says you're middle class if you make between $30,000 and $43,000 a year. But that seems a little weird, right? Imagine a part-time bartender next to a wealthy suburban couple, both supposedly middle class? Hold on a second there. Critics argue this system doesn't consider how much you can actually buy with your income. The middle could very well be shrinking even more than we think, but the official numbers might not show that. There's another way to look at it, taking the average income of everyone. But that can also muddy the water, as the figures would soon get skewed by super rich folks at the top. So the true middle class could be earning very different to what the government reports. The bottom line? Defining the middle class is a confusing game, as they may no longer be in the middle at all. Though middle-class families may not be in dire straits, their financial stability is increasingly uncertain, with an increasing number of middle-class Americans finding themselves shut out from owning a home. It's estimated that 11 million families previously within this income group are now excluded. The significant rise in property values has boosted home equity for some, but has also pushed most young adults completely out of the housing market due to the highest mortgage rates seen in more than 20 years. Consequently, middle-income families are now able to afford homes valued at only half of what they could afford 3 years ago. The Federal National Mortgage Association highlights a huge drop in the purchasing power for these families, plummeting to $189,000 from $357,000 when interest rates were near zero. As purchasing power weakens, list prices in the housing market have surged, affecting nearly half of the markets across 100 major U.S. cities. It's not all doom and gloom, as in another of our videos, we break down some of the cheapest places to buy a home within the U.S. Be sure to subscribe so you're always in the know and never miss a trick. Economists are saying that house prices are blowing past $500,000, which means Americans are taking on huge loans. The average new mortgage payment is a whopping $2,000 a month, compared to just $1,100 a few years back. That's a big jump. The National Association of Realtors even says it's nearly impossible for anyone making less than six figures to even get into the market. This is a huge problem for young adults, especially those coming from middle-class families. They're stuck renting because buying a house is a pipe dream. This means they can't build wealth through real estate ownership, making it harder to maintain a good standard of living later in life. But the housing market isn't the only place where things are getting tougher. Energy bills, gas prices, and groceries are all skyrocketing too. This leaves middle-class earners with barely any money left over for fun stuff. Forget dining out, vacations, or even buying that new gadget you wanted. With everything costing more, people are spending less, and that's not good for anyone. This slowdown creates a vicious cycle where everyone feels more financially insecure. With less money coming in, saving becomes even more critical. Think emergency funds and retirement accounts. But for Gen Z, things are even tougher. They're just starting out in the working world, and they're already facing a double whammy. Finding an affordable starter home is a nightmare, and forget about that cool, cheap used car. That idea has driven off into the sunset. Now they're stuck with giant loans for SUVs or electric cars, even if they have a college degree and did everything right. Basically, unless you were born with a silver spoon, financial independence feels impossible. Millennials aren't exactly skipping scot-free either. Sure, some of them were lucky enough to snag a house and car before prices went crazy, but that doesn't mean they're safe. This economic slowdown affects everyone, so they have got to be just as smart with their money too. The goals in the game of life, such as moving to a bigger home or securing a comfortable retirement, seem increasingly out of reach. For many, today's economic environment presents significant obstacles, highlighted by the struggle to replace a 14-year-old car or purchase a larger, more permanent residence, a milestone previously achieved by the earlier generation at a comparable age. The concept of retirement, once a cornerstone of the American dream, now appears unattainable for over half of the working population. In the U.S., a survey indicated that the country's retirement infrastructure is deteriorating, with a growing number of middle-class individuals between 55 and 64 years old unable to maintain their standard of living into retirement. So, what can you do? Saving for retirement sounds simple, right? Just sock away 5% of your paycheck from a young age, work for 40 years, and avoid any major financial hits. Easy peasy, except it's not. If you start saving around 40, you'd basically need to give up a quarter of your paycheck every year until retirement. Starting at 50? Well, good luck saving half your income for the next 17 years. As wages stagnate, individuals living from one paycheck to the next fear losing their ability to borrow through loans and credit lines. This financial strain is visible in the increasing rates of late payments across credit cards, mortgages, and car loans. The rate of car payments overdue by 60 days among earners of $55,000 to $100,000 soared to an all-time high record of over 6%. These figures highlight the harsh financial difficulties middle-class Americans are experiencing like never before, leading some to argue that the American middle class is not just shrinking, but undergoing a meltdown into a slow and painful demise. That's all we have for today. It's a tough situation for sure, but here's the good news. You're not alone, but instead among like-minded people each going through something. So let's chat about it. Leave a comment below and tell us what you're experiencing. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to press the like button and subscribe for more content that lift the lid on this crazy economic world. Together, we can figure this out and build a brighter future full of fortune.